Hello everyone, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. First, a big shout out to all of you who reached out to me to show your support, and those of you who sent me these beautiful messages about appreciation and also, most importantly, questions and requests for some agile videos. My today's video is in response to one of the requests that I had got, wherein a friend of mine who is a developer feels that their team have reached a stagnant point in their retrospectives and it feels very redundant. So today's video is here to help all you folks out there, especially engineers and product owners, on what are the different areas you could look at in these retrospective meetings. All right, so retrospectives and why developers should make the most of it. For all of you who are watching and you are wondering what are retrospectives, what is she talking about, I would request you all to go see my previous video, which explains what a retrospective is and what are the different team roles in this ceremony, etc. Let's take a deep dive. So before I talk about, why you should take these, why you should make the most of these meetings, let's first look at the core values that go into these retrospective ceremonies. The first core value being transparency. The more honest you are, the more transparent you become to your team. Simple as that. I will give you a set of I will use an example to explain the set of values that I'm going to say. For example, you are a team of developers, product owners, and a scrum master or an agile coach. And in the retrospective, everybody says, yeah, things are going well. We seem to be going well. But as a scrum master or as a product owner, you have noticed that while work is going well, there are areas of improvement in terms of your, the velocity of the team and the best practices that you are following in this team. Use these meetings to talk about that as an example. Try to use this to talk about, okay, hey guys, we've been consistently using, our velocity has been X. What about, let's try and improve it. Let's try and push ourselves to the next boundary. The next one, when somebody says this to you, the next core value is respect. Even if maybe as engineers or even as a product owner or as a scrum master, you might be like, well, we don't really agree with you. That's okay if you don't agree with what the person says. The fact that they are saying it, it means that there is some value in it. So you need to respect what that other person is telling you. Hear them out and listen to them with an open mind. The next one is unity. Just because you have, say, the scrum master coming and talking to you about the velocity, right? That doesn't just make it the problem of the scrum master. This makes this the problem for the team. And you as a team need to collectively solve it, collectively look at ways how you can tackle that issue and try to find solutions. And the last core value is being adaptability. Be open to change. Embrace every input that comes your way, even if you like it or don't. It's very important for us to kind of bring together what other people are telling you and what you are telling them. Now, how do you have a successful retrospective? Very simple. There's just 4 things you need to do. Participate. Ensure every member of your team participates actively in terms of giving points, receiving points, discussing points, and coming up with action items. Discuss. Don't just talk about the negatives, because a lot of times I've noticed people say, oh, retrospective is equal to something is wrong. There are a lot of good things that happen in that sprint or in that project. Talk about those as well. Ideate and brainstorm together about how you can focus on those negatives and make them into positives, how you can take the positives and take it one level higher. So, and this has to be done together. You cannot just put the burden of it on, say, a team lead or on a product owner or on a scrum master. It has to be a collective discussion. And implement. Take the ownership of the action items that were discussed. A lot of times I have noticed especially in the teams that I facilitate retrospectives for, it's usually action items fall under the PO it falls under the Scrum Master, or in some cases the tech lead takes on. But what about the other engineers in the team? You all need to divide all the action items that come there. You know, make sure that it doesn't just fall on 2 or 3 people's shoulders, because at the end of the day, it's your team and it's up to all of you to kind of take this to the next level, to implement those changes. Now, let's talk about how you can make the most of it. So a lot of times, what happens is, when you're having retrospectives with, especially if your team has been the same, you tend to start falling into this stagnant phase where you're just like, yeah, things are going well, yeah, we're doing stuff, okay, we are being productive, or we didn't being productive, or we weren't productive. You get stuck in answering just one or two. You get stuck in this diagram, like this circle, right? You get stuck in that loop. That's the word I was looking for. Sorry about that. So you get stuck in a loop. So today I'm going to present some ideas of how you can get away from that. What are the different areas you can think about? How do you broaden your horizon? So firstly, why don't you talk about, as engineers, you guys can talk about the build, talk about the infrastructure, talk about the system architecture, talk about technical debt, bring those points in. You can talk about, the plan, the roadmap, timeline, the pressure. Yes, a lot of times people say, yeah, but this is product owner's perspective, but why can't, that doesn't mean you cannot challenge it. That does not mean you cannot contribute, to it. If you say, hey, we made this roadmap 2 months ago, but because of certain technical debt aspects, we need to push this timeline. Maybe we need to revisit it. Or maybe the timeline is too short and there's too much pressure coming in. Bring all those topics out in these retrospectives so that everybody in your team is aware. And at some point you'll always be like, oh, maybe I'm the only one facing this. But trust me, when you start talking about it, you will see more and more people join in that discussion. Next up, you can talk about feedback. Here you can talk about feedback regarding stakeholders. Maybe how is the communication with them going? Do you feel that they are doing a good job in terms of giving you the response you need, giving you the direction that you need? How is the communication, intra-team? How is the communication inter-team? How is the company-wide communication? Maybe, especially now, let's say Corona times, all of us have been impacted by that at some way or the other. But do you get enough information from your company about what they're doing to tackle it? Of course, you can't find a solution here, but at least when you start talking about it, you will have somebody take the ownership and pass on this feedback to the respective people in the company. Maybe you worked with another team. Did it go well? Did it not go well? How is it going? How are things within your own team? That is a very important thing also to talk about sometimes. Just have a retrospective about the team dynamics. Could be very interesting to try that. This is one of the most common topics that I see. You talk about, and unfortunately, let me also add that usually I see these points only being raised by the PO or by the Scrum Master in terms of sprint goals, velocity, and agility. I think as a team, every single member is responsible for these elements. So it should not always be the PO or the Scrum Master who says, hey guys, we haven't achieved our sprint goal, or hey guys, our velocity is going down instead of up, or it's just going stagnant. These conversations could be brought by you as developers as well, because at the end of the day, it's your commitment, right? You agreed to achieve that sprint goal in sprint planning. So it should be up to you. You guys should take the responsibility if it was not achieved. If it was achieved, you should have, of course, take the credit as well. But talk about it. Don't shy away from this topic. Then you have another topic you can talk about is skills, communication skills, technical skills, leadership skills. And I understand that this area can be a little sensitive, but this is where the true, the essence of you guys being one team kind of comes into play. How close are all of you as a team? Can you freely talk about the communication? Do you if you feel there's somebody in the team who's not being 100% transparent about their work, is there a team environment where you can address this openly and say, hey, I understand you have a lot of pressure, but I really don't know what you are doing in your respective tasks. Can you please be um, more open when you describe your tasks in the daily? Or can you be more clear? Can you elaborate a little? Another thing could be maybe just technical skills. You might see that one person in your team is slightly weak in a particular aspect. And of course it might be a sensitive issue, but then that's the whole point as a team, right? You tell them and you help them find the solution. So this is not about putting blame. It's just, hey, how can we help improve this particular area for you as a team? And leadership here is, this falls more on the leaders of your team. How open are you as a leader to receive criticism? And I specify criticism because we all can take compliments, but it's very difficult for us to take in criticism, right? Have you created an environment in your team where your developers, your product owner, your scrum master can come to you and say, hey, I feel you are not pulling your end of the bargain, or hey, I do not, as my team lead, I did not get the guidance I needed from you in the past sprint. Can we talk about how we can improve that in the next sprint? You should be able to have these discussions with your leadership. And in order for your team to have it, you as leaders need to make sure you create that environment in your team. And last but not least, this is something one of the developers in my team taught me, and I really thought it was really impressive. Was talking about his personal aspects. He came up to the retrospective and he was like, every sprint he looked at himself and said, I could have done better in XYZ task, or based on this task I realized I need to improve on XYZ skills. And it was really interesting to see how he was doing a self evaluation of himself, and he brought it to the team, and the team collectively found ways to help him improve that area. I really encourage all of you to do this, because it never even occurred to me to do, but it it has a lot of value. You can also talk about near-term goals here. This could just be, you know among the future action plans in the next sprint. If you guys have a project coming up, maybe in the next OKR season or in the next quarter, and for that particular project you feel you need to learn, let's say Kafka, for example, why don't you talk about that in this retrospective and say, hey, in the future plan I would like to learn more on this language, and I think as a team, let's come up with a way to maybe include or cut in X amount of hours during our sprint, to learn that language, maybe, or just kind of watch videos, except just share it with the team, share your ideas, and even talk about ideas of improvement. This could be improving yourself, improving just the way you guys work as a team. Maybe, in the previous point in the feedback, you worked with another team, and for a project, and some of the processes they had, you think it might add value to your teams. Bring those ideas to your team in these meetings. Just say, hey, I noticed that, in this team, this is how they handle code reviews. It might be good for us to try it. And then just try those. Be open to trying new things, and don't ever hesitate or shy away from sharing your ideas. Now, what next, right? I spoke about so much, but all of this involves, of course, it involves yourself, but also involves some discussions with your team, which might take some time. But what are the steps you can do starting now? Or starting now, you can bring retro action items into your sprint. This could be like just the basic first step. When you treat those retrospective action items as important as you would treat any other sprint ticket. Bring it in the sprint, assign it to somebody, and make sure they have enough time to address that action item. You could also plan for themed retrospectives. I gave you in the previous slide these 6 different ideas, right? Maybe you can initially just talk to your team about them and do a quick test run. Okay, guys, let's have a themed retrospective where we talk about the technical debt that's built up. Or let's have a themed retrospective where we talk about team dynamics. or it could be a project. You guys have worked on a project and you do a project retrospective, or an OKR retrospective, or a quarterly retrospective. There are The minute you look at theme retrospectives, there that brings out so many opportunities and chances for us to really talk about this. um, you could also have an agile theme retrospective, where you are based on, you take the agile values, take the agile principles, and see where do you guys fall in each of them, and how can you get to that high mark, how can you achieve all those values. There are different types of theme retrospectives you can plan. Another good idea I suggest is taking ownership of retrospectives. Don't just depend on your scrum master or your product owner to facilitate these retrospectives. Why don't you, as developers, take on facilitation of one or two of these retrospectives? Do it on rotation. Maybe, yeah, maybe you can't do it off every other sprint, but take on at least once a month. Each of you do facilitate one retrospective. This will give you the holistic idea of what it takes to be in a team. How does it feel to facilitate the discussions? How does it feel to moderate? How does it feel to ensure, hey, think creatively. How can you plan a retrospective to get the most information out of your team based on the topic that you're trying to tackle? There's a lot of aspects that go into just planning a retrospective, and this could be a good chance for all of you to explore that aspect of your job. Um, and honestly, lastly, just be the change you want to be. If anything that I have said to you in this video clicks with you, you know don't wait for somebody else to do it. Take that idea, take the ownership of it, go tomorrow, take it to your team and say, hey, I think we should do this. And maybe initially people be like, yeah, you know what, let's wait. But don't wait. Take the ownership. Try to bring this on your own. And once you start doing it, I'm sure people will see, hey, that's a really good idea, and they will learn from you. So yeah, simple as that. Just be the change you want to be. And with that, I request all of you, if you have any questions, if you have any comments, as usual, please feel free to drop a line in the comments below. You can reach me out personally as well. Here is, you can find me on LinkedIn. You can also just drop me a personal message if we are connected on personal grounds, WhatsApp, etc. But yeah, feel free to drop me a line. And I hope this video is helpful. Don't forget, like, share, and subscribe. Bye, guys. Have a great evening and holiday season. I hope you guys have some amazing plans for Christmas. Bye.